Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the City Council Legislative and Legal Affairs Committee to order. It is April 2nd. The time is 6:31 p.m. We have one item on the agenda this evening, which is order number 26-100-9706, communication from Wemerson Vieira on behalf of Welly's Restaurant, Inc. regarding a request to extend the use of outdoor seating. This is the first meeting of this session of this committee, so I will just introduce the members. Besides myself, we are joined by Councillor Roby and Councillor Orem as voting members. This evening, we're also joined by Councillor Ficillo and Councillor Irish as well. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to start. We have the proponent, Wemerson Vieira, here with us tonight in the well. I'm going to start by reading your letter with the request in it, and then we'll kick off a little bit of discussion here, okay?
Thank you.
Great. Dear members of the Marlborough City Council, I am writing on behalf of Welly's Restaurant to respectfully request permission to operate our seasonal sidewalk dining area for the upcoming season, as we have successfully done in previous years. We greatly appreciate the city's continued support of outdoor dining initiatives, which have played an important role in enhancing the vibrancy of downtown Marlborough. As in past seasons, our sidewalk dining area will be fully fenced and clearly marked with visible signage stating that no alcohol beyond this point. Our staff is thoroughly trained and required to monitor all patio activity to ensure compliance with all city and state regulations and responsible service practices. Maintaining a safe, orderly, and welcoming environment remains our top priority. We take pride in creating an attractive and inviting outdoor space. The patio is decorated with plants and flowers that contribute to the charm of the streetscape, and we utilize LED lighting to improve visibility and enhance safety for both guests and pedestrians. These elements help create a warm, lively atmosphere that complements the character of downtown. Outdoor dining continues to be an essential part of our business. It allows us to accommodate more guests during peak seasons, supports our ability to retain staff, and provides an enjoyable option for residents and visitors who prefer open-air dining. Beyond its business benefits, sidewalk dining contributes to a more active and engaging downtown environment, encouraging foot traffic, supporting neighboring businesses, and fostering a sense of community. We respectfully request that the City Council's approval to continue offering this amenity to the public. We remain committed to upholding all city guidelines and ensuring that our outdoor dining area reflects positively in the downtown district. Thank you for your consideration and for your ongoing efforts to support local businesses, and we look forward to continuing our partnership with the City of Marlborough. Sincerely, Wemerson Vieira, President, Welly's Restaurant, Inc. So appreciate that letter. I think it clearly lays out the discussion before us and really clearly identifies some of the benefits that the business has brought to Main Street and to the community as a whole. So I do want to thank you for that. I want to give you a couple minutes at the front if there's anything else you'd like to add to that or any kind of discussion.
No, I think a lot of, covers everything. Like, it says, it creates a lot of new jobs. It's a huge part of the restaurant's success. After COVID, everything changed. Everyone likes to dine outside. And as you guys seen, we always have done, everything to maintain beautiful, clean. We always have extra manager during those peak season to make sure everybody's staying safe and no one is passing drinks or anything like that. But yep. Yes, I mean I appreciate
that, and it's certainly you guys do keep a very nice and welcoming environment. It's a lot of work, and that's not something that I don't think people recognize, is that when a restaurant operates outside and a healthy outside dining atmosphere, they are still operating an inside dining atmosphere, and it requires extra staff and it requires extra attention to detail. So yes. Appreciate just how well you keep up the outside. You hit on this, and we'll talk a little bit more about it, but it really does, I think, it adds to what we're trying to create downtown. We are trying to increase foot traffic, right? This is why we talk about a mixed-use development. This is why we talk about bringing more restaurants, more foot traffic downtown. Yes. So I think it is collaborative of that. Before I open it up to discussion, I'm going to read a letter that the Council President has asked us to enter into the record as well. Chair Navin and members of Legal and Legislative, I am unable to attend the April 2nd, 2026 LNL meeting to discuss Order 26-100-9706 regarding the outdoor seating for Welly's Restaurant due to a prior commitment. Please read the following into the record. I fully support the outdoor seating request by Welly's Restaurant. The city used a MassWorks grant in the amount of $3 million to improve Marlborough Main Street. One of the features of Main Street improvements was the additional bump outs. The bump out in front of Welly's is an ideal location to add outdoor seating and bring individuals to Main Street. Welly's demonstrated last year that the outdoor seating in the bump out can successfully be implemented. The City Council in 2009 approved outdoor dining on Main Street to allow restaurants the opportunity to provide diners with the outdoor seating environment. This contributes to bringing more foot traffic downtown, additional job opportunities for the season, increases the meal tax revenue used for city recreational areas, and models an energetic and thriving Main Street. I encourage the L&L committee to support the Welly's outdoor seating request. Should L&L approve the seating request, consideration should be given to having the solicitor place the item in proper format for the City Council to consider taking the item up under suspension at the Monday, April 6, 2026 City Council meeting. Mike Ossing, President, Marlborough City Council. I will also note that we received several other letters of support from local businesses downtown, as well as the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce. So with that, I'm going to open up discussion to committee members, and then the councilors at whole. Councilor Orm.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chair. You got some good support down there. I like when neighbors get along with neighbors,
Yes.
especially in the business community. The Chamber of Commerce also sent a letter, but we got quite a few letters of support, probably more than I've ever seen for any project, to be honest with you. I just have two questions. You may have heard these before. I've asked other applicants that have outdoor seating or someone that was creating outdoor seating just last year, and it's safety. I'm glad you have those flower boxes. Are they filled enough with soil that could prevent a vehicle from entering into that area?
So in between those box, there's the bowers, so the vehicle, won't be able to get in. I mean, the box are all metal, which we spend over $30,000 on those boxes. I mean, they're heavy, and I mean, it should definitely help, but even like, there's not enough space in between the bollards for any cars to drive in between.
So you have the bollards
Yes.
and the boxes.
And the box, which is all heavy metal.
And they're filled up
And
with
they're
some
filled
soil.
with soil
They're-
for the plants.
Yep, that helps to weigh it down a little
Weigh it
bit.
down,
I really appreciate that being there, one, for the safety, but two, it is beautiful. I've
Yes.
eaten outside at your place and inside. You do a very good business down there, and
Thank you.
in my view, you're running a very good business in Marlborough, and I appreciate it. The other, excuse me, the other question I have is just passageway, to make sure, what is the width of the passageway between the two tables near the building itself and coming down with the picnic tables on the other side? What's the width of allowance?
So we left a little bit over 5, feet walkway, so for pedestrian and, wheelchairs to pass through. So it's about 5-6 feet.
And I know your staff stays out there.
Yes, for
And
sure.
so you always assure that width is
Yes.
available.
Yes,
Okay, because that's
absolutely.
important. If,
Yeah, for
someone's
sure.
trying to come down Main Street, say in a wheelchair, as you just
Yes.
noted, that's very important. So as long as you can keep that width available and put up those flower boxes, I'm definitely in
Will do.
support of your request. And one other note, my relative is in your restaurant.
Yeah?
Yeah, I keep telling your staff, when you turn around the corner, my grandfather was looking into the jewelry store. That's the picture you see with the Cadillac and the gentleman looking into the jewelry store. Come in to the left.
really?
That's my grandfather.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, but that's not going to get you my
What's his
vote.
name?
What'll get you my vote is keeping that width available
Thank
and
you.
making it safe.
Will do.
Thank you,
Will
Wemby.
do. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Orm. Before we move on to other councilors, the other thing I wanted to note, and it's about the conversation we're having tonight, but it's really more of a broader discussion to kind of the larger business community that we have here, right? This is something that kind of unique to Welly's, right? That you're taking
Absolutely.
advantage of on
Yeah.
Main Street. And what I want to be clear to both the members of the community and also members of the business community, this is something that, we can work with other businesses to offer, right? This is not, I don't think it works as well. I don't think it's not as successful for you as a business and for other businesses if we're not trying to replicate that. So this
Absolutely.
is something that we want to make sure.
Yeah.
Obviously, last year, the council worked with La Choux on the backside of Main Street, but something that we are open to considering and working with other business owners to provide this kind of equitable opportunity for additional city use to be able to increase business and foot traffic downtown. Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for making that comment. I was actually going to make the same thing, make the same sort of remarks. I know my concern was reading the code where it says very clearly that you can put tables and chairs upon the sidewalk fronting each food service establishment. You have spread past your front of the food establishment, which has worked in the past. And I talked to the legal department because I wanted to make sure that us approving this is okay. And as was just stated, the code is one thing, us being able to grant a license, similar to what we did to, I don't know what the restaurant is called nowadays, Chapa, where we allow them to use the sidewalk next to the restaurant for seating, which they have not done yet, and hopefully they will have chairs out this year when the weather gets a little nicer. I do have some of the same concerns. I am glad that you have the support of downtown Main Street businesses. I think the bringing people to downtown for food, which then lets them spread out to other business, has worked well, and everybody appreciates that. I know we have those letters of support. We have no negative letters or negative comments, but I have heard negative comments from people on the street, and I just want to make sure that people are aware that as this and other establishments get approved for the license, if there are issues, it can be revoked. So I think you have done a good job of making sure that that sidewalk is clear. There have been times when I have walked or parked in the parking lot or been walking down Main Street when to me it's a little crowded in there, and it is an issue, but it's not all the time, and it's because you're busy, which is understandable. But if there are concerns from people, they certainly need to let us know, and we can then take steps. It was made clear to me that we need to make sure, if this is moved to go forward, that we have it, that the plan that you have here is what you want, because we'll need to reference your seating arrangement. So you have given us your service patio area. That's how you plan on doing it again, which shows where the barrier, your host stand, and your, I didn't count them all, 1 through, I guess they're not left, right, so I can't really, that's the table arrangement that you plan to use again this year.
Yes, and then unless I mean, if we have a pot of 6 and then we have to put a table together to make it 6. But other than that.
But
yeah,
you're not
yes.
spreading further than
No,
that,
no,
or
it's-
adding more closer to the front,
Close to?
closer to the front of the building. You've got two
No,
tables
no
that are
front of the
right
building.
on
No
the
front of the
building
building.
front, and the rest are all on the street side with the
Yes.
sidewalk. Okay.
Yeah, nothing in the front of the building, yeah, so that.
Okay, so I can move to approve, and then if there's other discussion, but we are going to be the voting people, so I don't think it hurts to have it on the record. Move to approve the request to have a license for outdoor seating use using the service area depicted on what he provided us.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve order number 26-100-9706, the request from Wemerson Vieira on behalf of Welly's Restaurant, Inc., for the extended use of outdoor seating.
Mr. Chair?
Yes?
If I may just add an amendment to that. The amendment would be, as just noted, that the sidewalk area that is to be kept open at least the minimum of the 5-foot width at all times.
Absolutely.
mentioned.
Counselor, that is actually in the language of the code that it be.
Yes.
I just.
But I'm making it as an amendment to your motion, if that's okay, just so it's clear, and
But
that the
it's-
safety features that were just discussed in this committee also be part of that amendment.
It just says in here that tables and chairs shall not interfere with the accessible path of the travel for handicapped individuals per the ADA and all other applicable laws. So I think if we're specifying a footage, we need to make sure that it's correct, and they
Sure.
have to follow these rules,
And
so.
the owner just noted in this meeting, just now, that it's a 5-foot width, and I think that's important to include that in the motion, as well as what was just discussed on the safety issues that I requested, that those flower boxes be in place. Other things can happen, but I think they help with the boulders.
Absolutely.
So the boulders. So with that, I would ask for those two friendly amendments. They're friendly. Thank you.
I'm going to let them go, and we'll see what the solicitor says when he puts this in proper form, if he feels they're necessary to include or not, or if the fact that they have to do what is in the code
Yeah,
is, covers it, so.
Thank you, Councilor Roby. Thank you, Councilor Oram, for the friendly amendment. I think just in with what Councilor Roby said as well, I just want to make sure that any of the site-specific and the measurement-specific things that we add don't conflict with what the ADA requires, because obviously we want to make sure that's going to govern this area, so.
And the reason for it, Mr. Chair, was just because it's not shown, it shows the sidewalk, but it doesn't show the width.
Oh, yeah, yep.
And it was just offered by the applicant, so, again, it wouldn't have hurt me one way or the other, because it's on the record what was just requested.
Yep.
But I was just adding a friendly amendment to make sure, because the width isn't shown on this plan.
I think
Thank
that
you.
I think it has to be at least 4 feet, and
Yeah.
you'll have extra, just.
Yeah.
That's fine. But the language is in there to keep it
Yeah.
legal, so,
Sure.
as Council Roby noted, so that would be part of the review.
Absolutely.
And I would also ask that we request a suspension at our next meeting.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Motion has been made and seconded. Discussion? Council Preciado?
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry I'm a little late. 6:30 is a tough call time for me. But I'm sorry I missed part of the discussion, but I just wanted to, thank you again for your application. It's great to see a business really, be able to do more than they are with their space given. And I think it's a great sign of both the economy on our main street, but, people willing to go out and spend money at your establishments, and that's great. On the width of that sidewalk, so I walk Main Street almost every day with a stroller. And I just want to make sure that that pathway is clear. The past years have not been entirely accessible for something that width, which I'm assuming is a little bit less wide than a full wheelchair. It is tough to get through there, especially when you guys are in service, busy afternoon. There are people walking back and forth from the entrance to the expanded seating. So there's a lot of traffic there. What I noticed is I'm not sure what the width you guys had set in previous years was, but whatever that width was, it was difficult to maneuver through. I think it would be fine if you didn't have like a wall here, a building here, and then like essentially another wall here, because it kind of feels like a much narrower corridor, right? And I did have some issues with your host stand where it was last year. Almost every time I walked through there, I had to move it off to the side because it was in the egress. And I didn't mention it to anybody because it was it's such a small movement, it doesn't matter. But I would imagine if someone were in a wheelchair, it's not an easy thing to move, and it's not always visible. I think you have a pedestal or something that juts out into that walkway as well. I don't know what either a sign for something. It's like an iron square that's that's posted at the end of
At the end of, with the logo on it?
Yeah. So just make sure that all that stuff is within your seating as well. And I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if you had the 5 feet then, but I would recommend expanding it a bit more, a few more inches, if you can. I know it does get tighter in the tables, and I know you guys want to maximize that space in there.
We only have 2 tables and 1 table on each side. It's not like.
Yeah, and it is pretty
and
tight.
It's like, I feel like, 5 feet, it's already more than they requested. I mean, also we
Yeah.
can try to move a little bit more.
Yeah, the way.
No, and we can, I understand what you're saying with the
Yeah.
host stand, which, this year was gonna be a little different. We purchased some nice big umbrellas.
Yeah.
Things gonna be different because last year was like, kind of, trial. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, we can definitely work on that, moving the host stand, make sure sometimes it's gonna be hard because there's a lot of people going to the restaurant, which is a good thing. We want a lot of people going to the restaurant, but I feel like, we can try to manage it, Catlin was saying, so the pathway is clear, and then, even if we have to remove there's the big area where we have the patio, and we have a small area, we have 2 other tables that, even if we have to remove that, in order so people can wait there and lose those tables, I mean, it's something that, if we have to do it, we'll do it, but
Yeah,
we'll definitely make sure, this is the first meeting, we talk about how,
course, yeah.
everybody felt about the patio.
Yeah.
Like, you have kids, I have kids too, I have 3 kids, I work with strollers too, and we'll make sure, there's enough space for,
And
and everything's clear,
Gotcha, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
First and foremost, I want, the residents here and the pedestrians here to be comfortable and able to access,
Yeah.
all the sidewalks. So that's my main concern there. But other than that, as long as that, you are able to give enough space for that, maybe you might want to do some trial runs with, find someone with a wheelchair, find someone with a stroller, and see how maneuverable it is, especially during service time.
Yeah.
That might be beneficial to you, and you might, gain some insight
Yeah.
on as to what
We
that
can definitely
experience
add
is.
a couple more inches,
Okay, I appreciate that.
for sure.
That's all.
Thank you, Councilor Preciado. Councilor Facillo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Vieira, for being here. Appreciate your business in the city, and just wanted to take a second. I did, it was before my time on the council, but did some homework on back in 2021 when we were awarded that $3 million MassWorks grant. It was to fund the bump outs and curb extensions to improve walkability, but also specifically to support local businesses. And so I feel that this is perfectly in harmony, right? Although those funds came to the city, their intended purpose is really to support small businesses and local businesses. So again, just perfectly in harmony with this request. Really excited to support this. Chair Navin, you had mentioned earlier, there's past precedent, right, on this council for supporting things like this with Lost Shoe, with Flying Dreams, Chapapayas, and now with Wellies, right? So when we are opening ourselves up to small businesses, allowing them to utilize spaces that we've had investments in, both from the state and at the local level. This to me is just such a win-win situation. I am in full support of this, and will support it when it comes to the Greater Council. So thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you for doing this and getting this. I do support it completely.
Thank you.
I'm also on the Disabilities Commission. I can assure you we're going to be doing a trial run when the weather's good on some Monday afternoon, first Monday of the month, where after we meet, we tend to go to Wellies for dinner anyway. So there will be, if there are issues, you'll find out. But I'm not really that concerned.
Thank you.
So there's your trial run in any case.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening. I fully support the outdoor seating request. It's another continuation of working with the city of Marlborough to have this economic push, and also to help build the downtown brand for the city of Marlborough. I'd like to also make a comment that all the feedback I always get is very positive, and it seems like you take a lot of time with your team to do training for any emergencies or when it's really busy, so I respect that, and you're doing a very good job doing that training, and I fully support this request. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great. Thank you, Councilor Irish. Any additional comments? All right, seeing none, a motion has been made and on the floor to approve order number 26-100-9706. All those in favor? I was like, you did make the motion. I do think you'll support it. All right, all those opposed? None. All right, that is approved. And it will be sent to the council, and we'll ask for a suspension. Everyone is comfortable with asking for a suspension, so we can take that up on Monday night.
Seeing no other business, Mr. Chair, I would motion to adjourn.
A motion has been made and seconded to adjourn, and that is not open for discussion, so all in favor? All opposed? We are adjourned at 6:55.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the City Council Urban Affairs and Housing Committee meeting to order. We are having, I think this is our first meeting of the year also, but I could be wrong. But we do have a change in our membership. Unfortunately, Councilor Sargent will be deployed and will be replacing him so that we have 5 members with Councilor Fucillo on Urban Affairs. He was kind enough to be part of this committee last year when we were short, and so we welcome him back again. I am the chair, Councilor Navin is the vice chair, Councilor Preciado, Councilor Doucette, and Councilor Fucillo make up the rest of the voting members of the committee. So tonight we have 3 items on our agenda, and I'm going to take up the very first one. Order number 26-109-664, the application for a special permit from Attorney Brian Falk on behalf of Marlborough Northborough Land Trust to build and operate 2 multifamily dwellings with a total of 9 residential units, accessory parking, resident amenities, landscaped areas, and open space areas to be located at the corner of Ames and Forest Street. I know our packet included a special permit draft that has been updated. Counselor Fox sent out a copy, and I believe either you got one in your box or he handed you one tonight with the changes. So those are, I'm going to let Attorney Falk open up with any remarks, and then I'm going to go through the comments from the department heads.
Thank you, Councilor Roby. For the record, Attorney Brian Falk with Myrick, 100 Front Street in Worcester, here on behalf of the applicants, the Marlboro Northborough Land Realty Trust, which is an affiliate of the Gutierrez Company. With me tonight is Scott Weiss from the Gutierrez Company. I'm going to be brief, but just want to refresh everybody in terms of what we're doing. Project in the brand new Ames Village Overlay District was approved by the City Council late last year to allow for multifamily development that preserves open space near neighboring homes. We have 11 acres of land at the corner of Ames and Forest Street, and that's the entirety of the overlay district. Our proposal would leave 5.8 of the 11 acres, which is slightly more than half, as natural open space, a natural open space buffer between the built area of the site and the single-family homes to the north and to the east. This follows comments that we received from these neighbors at neighborhood meetings that we held early last year and at various public hearings when the council was considering the overlay district. So we would build 2 buildings along Ames and Forest Street with a total of 90 two-bedroom condominium units. These would be ownership units, not rental units. The project is age targeted for owners who are over 55, looking to downsize but remain homeowners. 12% of the units would be restricted as affordable under the city's inclusionary zoning ordinance. Including the open space buffer area, the site would have a lot coverage of just 18.4%. The underlining A3 zoning has a maximum lot coverage of 30%. And a by right single-family development at the site could result in homes within 20 to 15 feet of existing boundary lines. That's something that our neighbors asked that we not do, and so this project is designed to keep the built area as far from neighbors as possible and leave that vegetated buffer in place. In addition to developing much less of the site than a by right development, this project would have a positive revenue to the city, more than $500,000 per year, versus a slight negative for single-family homes that would fit on this site. We had our public hearing on March 9th. 3 members of the public spoke in favor of the project. No members of the public were on record as being opposed to the project. We met with the site plan committee on February 12th to discuss the project. We received some comments from department heads in advance of tonight's meeting. And as a result of those comments, I revised the original draft decision that I had submitted to the council to incorporate comments from the committee. Just a brief summary, because I know we're probably going to go through the conditions in detail, but just a brief summary of the relevant conditions. Condition number 6 outlines the process for getting the 12% affordable units protected in perpetuity and on the state's subsidized housing inventory. Condition 7 notes some transportation measures that were recommended in our traffic study. Condition 8 addresses green design and the requirement of EV charging stations in our parking areas. Condition 9 commits $100,000 to sidewalk work along Ames Street. We had originally left that amount, the purpose for that mitigation condition blank. The city engineer had suggested that sidewalk work be done to connect essentially a missing link of the sidewalks just beyond our site and over to the Halstead property closer to Route 20. So the $100,000 could be earmarked for that purpose. Condition 10 commits $1,000 per unit, total of $90,000 towards the West Side Fire Station Fund. And then condition 13 establishes a process for management of the open space buffer area. That was something that was requested by Conservation Agent Priscilla Ryder. These conditions are very similar to those that are required of the Glenwood community on Lazat Drive in the Lazat Drive Overlay District. That project had 187 units, a little more than double our project. The financial mitigation for Glenwood was $187,000 for the fire station and $150,000 for 2 other designated funds. Works out to about $1,800 per unit. Our proposed financial mitigation for 90 units works out to a little over $2,111 per unit. So a slight uptick in total commitment for the mitigation package for this project compared to our neighbor down the street. Happy to answer the councilors' questions and go through the draft decision in greater detail. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to read quickly through the comments that were received from department heads. We got 2 with actual detail. Mr. DePercio, the city engineer, recommends, number 1, that we construct a new sidewalk to fill an existing gap on the east side of Ames Street, north of the site in vicinity of 85 Ames Street, and 2, remove any remaining construction debris or fencing from the proposed open space, including around the former detention basin on the north part of the site. Priscilla Ryder, Conservation and Sustainability Officer, says she agrees with engineering that fences and construction debris in the open area shall be removed prior to occupancy permits. The open space should have some restrictions on what can and can't be placed on it and what maintenance is allowed. She suggests a new condition called open space that would include the remaining undeveloped open space shall be kept in its natural condition to create a buffer for the neighborhood, support wildlife habitat, to provide many benefits for climate resilience, including shade, stormwater absorption, carbon sequestration, oxygen, absorb sound, and improve livability and aesthetics. The Site Plan Review Committee shall work with the applicant to develop a long-term management plan for this open space property. This plan shall review whether a walking trail for the new residents and any other amenities to enhance the natural habitat would be allowable. It should outline tree and plant management practices and responsibilities, including invasive plant management and any other land management considerations deemed necessary by the Site Plan Review Committee. No additional buildings or structures on this open area shall be permitted except as outlined in the management plan to be developed, such as benches or birdhouses, etc., that enhance or promote the natural condition of the site for now or in the future. The management plan shall also outline the maintenance needed, if any, to the existing abandoned detention basin near the border of Teller Street. From Jeffrey Gogan, the Marlborough Fire Department Chief, William Payton, Building Commissioner, Paul Dinwiddie, Board of Health, and Chief Georgie, the Chief of Marlborough Police Department. None of them had any additional comments. I will read an email that was received by everyone from Councilor Ossing, and also an email that I received from Councilor Gould regarding this. The first one from Councilor Ossing. Chair Roby and members of Urban Affairs, I'm unable to attend the April 2nd, 2026 Urban Affairs meeting to discuss Order 26-100-9664 regarding the special permit for 90 residential units at Ames and Forest Street due to a prior commitment. I am in support of the special permit for the 90 residential units at Ames and Forest Street. The city needs new growth to offset budget increases. Early 27 budget tax impact is about $500 to the average single-family house. The new Richer School bond of $170 million will impact the tax bill by $310. The new West Side Fire Station bond will impact the tax bill by $145. This project provides an estimated $475,000 in annual tax revenue. The building permits, water, sewer, fire department permits will provide needed immediate revenue. Almost half of the 11-acre parcel will be designated as open space, providing an excellent buffer for the neighbors. The 90 residential units will be condominiums with 12% assigned affordable units. Regarding the special permit conditions, I fully support the Conservation Officer's recommendation to add a condition for restrictions of the open space. Urban Affairs should consider changing Condition 9, suggest mitigation funding. The applicant shall provide payment to the city in the total amount of $100,000 to be used by the city for a proposed new Richer School. Said payment to be deposited into the new Richer School stabilization account with the number to be set by the auditor. The applicant shall make such payments to the city in 2 installments, with $500,000 paid prior to the issuance of the building permit for each of the 2 buildings. I'm sorry, did I say 500? Oh, sorry, $50,000 for a total of the 100,000. The Lazat Drive special permit consisted of mitigation funds totaling $337,000 for 187 units, $1,802 per unit, as was stated. For comparison, conditions 8 and 9 for the Ames Village project total $190,000 for the 90 units, or $2,011 per unit. And then from Councilor Gould, I cannot attend tonight's meeting due to a prior engagement, but would like to let you know that I am in favor of this project. I've spoken with Councilor Brown, as well as friends in the area, and I feel it is better for the community than other proposed options. And with that, I will begin by going through, as was stated, Attorney Falk did provide an updated decision on the special permit where he has included some of the suggested changes. So as we go through this, we'll see whether we like the language. So if my head's down from reading and somebody has a question, please let me know, because I won't be looking up too much. So the decision on the special permit, order number 26-109-664. City Council of the City of Marlborough hereby grants the application for a special permit to Marlborough Northborough Land Realty Trust to build and operate a two-building multifamily dwelling project with a total of up to 90 residential units along Ames and Forest Streets as provided in this decision and subject to the following findings of facts and conditions. Findings of facts, number 1, the applicant is a Massachusetts land trust with a mailing address of 200 Summit Drive, Suite 40, Burlington, Mass. The applicant is the owner of the property located along Ames and Forest, shown as parcels 80 to 88 and 90 to 99 on Assessor's Map 89, and parcels 15, 24, 25, and 26 on Assessor's Map 100, called the site. Number 3, in accordance with Article 6, Section 650-39.2 of the zoning ordinance, the applicant proposes to build and operate at the site a multifamily dwelling project with a total of up to 90 residential units consisting of 2 new buildings, on-site parking, open space areas, and residential amenities. The use: each building or one or more of the buildings together may be organized as its own condominium and constructed in phases at different times. Number 4, the site is located in the A3 residential zoning district and the Ames Village overlay district. Number 5, the site has an area of 11 acres plus or minus, as shown on the plans referenced in paragraph 7. Number 6, the applicant, by and through its counsel, filed with the city clerk the application of a special permit for the use. Number 7, in connection with the application, the applicant submitted a certified list of abutters, filing fees, and a detailed site plan entitled Ames Village by SMMA dated January 7th, 2026, collectively the plans, and attached as Attachment A. Number 8, the application was certified as complete by the building commissioner, acting on behalf of the city planner for the city, in accordance with the rules and regulations promulgated by the City Council. Number 9, pursuant to the rules and regulations of the City Council and applicable statutes of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the City Council established a date for a public hearing, and the city clerk caused notice of the same to be advertised and determined that notice of the same was provided to abutters. Number 10, the Marlborough City Council, pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 48, opened the public hearing on Monday, March 9th. The hearing was closed on that date. Number 11, the applicant, through its representatives, presented testimony at the public hearing detailing the use, describing its impact, the neighborhood, and traffic. Number 12, at the public hearing, 3 members of the public spoke in favor of the use, and no members of the public spoke in opposition. Number 13, Councilor Heather Gould was absent for the single session of the public hearing on the application. Prior to a vote of this decision, Councilor Gould filed a written certification as to examination of all the evidence and testimony received at the hearing session, and that is made part of the record of the hearing in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 39, Section 23D. Based on the above, the City Council makes the following findings and takes the following actions. Number A, the applicant has complied with all rules and regulations promulgated by the Marlborough City Council as they pertain to special permit applications. B, the City Council finds that the proposed use of the site is an appropriate use and in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance of the City of Marlborough when subject to the appropriate terms and conditions as provided herein. The City Council makes these findings subject to the completion and adherence by the applicant, its successors, and/or signs to the conditions more fully set forth herein. C, the City Council, pursuant to its authority under MGL Chapter 40A and the zoning ordinance of the city, hereby grants the applicant a special permit to build and operate a two-building multifamily dwelling project with a total of up to 90 residential units, as shown on the plan, subject to the following conditions, which condition shall be binding on the applicant, its successors, and/or signs. Number 1 is construction in accordance with applicable laws. Construction shall be in accordance with the applicable building codes and zoning regulations in effect in the City of Marlborough and the Commonwealth, and shall be built according to the plans as may be amended during site plan review. Number 2, site plan review. The issuance of the special permit is further subject to detailed site plan review by the Site Plan Review Committee in accordance with Section 650-39-2 of the zoning ordinance prior to the issuance of the building permit. It goes on to talk about changes that are major or minor, is language that I think we all are familiar with from all of our other special permits, and I'm not going to read it all. Number 3 is incorporation of submissions. All plans, photo renderings, site evaluations, briefs, and other documentation provided by the applicant as amended or revised during the application before the City Council or the Urban Affairs Committee are incorporated into and become part of this special permit. The final architectural design of the site shall be reasonably consistent with the plan submitted by the applicant. The final exterior features of the site, including landscaping, shall be maintained in good condition and shall be reasonably consistent with the plan submitted and representations made to the council. Number 4, stormwater and erosion control management. The applicant shall ensure that its site superintendent during construction of the project is competent in stormwater and erosion control management. This individual's credentials shall be acceptable to the engineering division of the city and the city's Conservation Commission. The individual shall be responsible for checking the site before, during, and after storm events, including weekends and evenings when storms are predicted. They shall ensure that no untreated stormwater leaves the site consistent with the state's and the city's stormwater regulations, shall ensure compliance with the approved sequence of construction plan and the approved erosion control plan, and shall grant this individual's complete authority of the site as it relates to stormwater and erosion controls. Number 5, phasing of construction. Each of the 2 proposed condominium buildings may be organized as its own condominium, and the buildings may be constructed in phases at different times. Site plan review in accordance with condition 2 shall be addressed in phases with separate reviews for different buildings. Number 6, affordable units. 12% of the dwelling units at the site shall be made available as units for sale at affordable prices to home buyers whose annual income does not exceed 80% of the area median income as defined in Section 655 of the zoning ordinance, in perpetuity or the longest period allowed by law, in accordance with the provisions of Section 650-26 of the zoning ordinance. And this condition, the affordable housing unit shall be distributed evenly among the 2 buildings. If the 2 buildings are constructed in separate phases, no less than 12% of the dwelling units in each building shall constitute affordable housing units. The affordable housing unit shall comply with all requirements for inclusion in the subsidized housing inventory of the Commonwealth. Prior to obtaining an occupancy permit for any unit within a given building, the applicant, in coordination with the city and its CDA, shall file all required submissions to EOHLC for inclusion in the affordable housing units within that specific building on the SHI, and shall diligently take all action necessary to include the affordable housing units on the SHI. which is subsidized housing inventory, including without limitation, preparing and executing a regulatory agreement and declaration of restrictive covenants and any other restrictive instrument necessary to ensure compliance with said zoning ordinance and this condition, a marketing plan, and all other required documentation. All costs associated with complying with this condition, including but not limited to the EOHLC process, recording of all documents with the Registry of Deeds, the marketing plan for the affordable units shall be borne by the applicant.
Madam Chair,
Counselor Doucette.
glad to give you a break for a minute. I just have one question. I just did some quick calculations. So there's going to be 90 units in total, right? So I'm assuming... Up to. So I'm assuming something like 45 units per building. That, divided by 2. 12% of that is 5.4. Okay? So I'd rather see a 6 than a 5.
And Councilor just said, you'll get the 6, not the 5, are required to round up.
You're required to round up. Okay. Well, 5.4 is not a roundup.
Understood, but a partial unit goes up.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification on that. Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, number 7, transportation alternatives. Information regarding public transportation services, maps, schedules, and fare information shall be posted in a central location and are otherwise made available to residents within each building at the site. B, a welcome packet shall be provided to residents detailing available public transportation services, bicycle and walking alternatives, commuter options, and local walking trails. C, a central mail drop shall be provided within each building. D, secure bicycle parking shall be provided for residents and visitors, including weather-protected bicycle parking within the 2 parking garages on site. 8, green...
Madam Chair? Just
Councilor
want to
Doucette.
say thank you for the bicycle parking, that's all.
Green design. The applicant shall utilize best practices to design energy-efficient buildings and is encouraged to design buildings and accessory structures to accommodate accessory solar energy facilities and or other technologies as feasible. The applicant shall use best efforts to provide all electric utilities contingent upon the utility company being able to commit to such service during the project's ordinary construction timeline. Accommodations for future electric vehicle charging stations or EV dedicated outlets shall be installed in at least 10% of the parking spaces for each building, provided that each building shall have at least 6 parking spaces with EV charging stations or EV dedicated outlets installed prior to the issuance of the first occupancy permit for any unit within the building.
Madam Chair, just a quick question for
Councilor
clarification.
I'm sorry?
I have a quick question for clarification on the
Sure.
EV charging. All the wiring and stuff is going to be prepped for the maximum capacity on day 1, right? And then just build it out from there.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Madam Chair?
Councilor Orrin?
On number 8 that you just read.
Yes.
The wording, the EV charging is very definitive, no problem there. But the wording for the green design is very limited. It says the word encouraged, doesn't say shall, and best efforts for the other part about electric utilities. I would ask that that language be changed to be more of the word shall versus encouraged or best efforts. That means nothing. It does, to me, it doesn't. The word shall definitely, as the lawyers know, it means quite a bit different, but I'm not for sure if they're interested in having the word shall in there, but that is my concern. It's very vague and not direct. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And I will let the applicant respond, but I will first say I know in listening to comments from other developers, getting the electric company to put these big units on the grid has been a delay in the project and has been extremely expensive for the developer, which may or may not mean anything to us, but the delay does. So I don't know if you have further comments than that. So the fact that is shall use best efforts to provide them, I guess we could say they have to provide all electric if that's the way we want to go, but it means that this would probably be delayed.
Through the chair, it could be delayed, and if it can't be accommodated, what we'd probably end up doing is coming back in here to amend the special permit or request an amendment if we're not able to do it. Under the current stretch code, it's fairly difficult to not do all electric, and that's certainly what we're intending to do. But the best efforts language is there if it's impossible to do it within certain amount of years within the normal construction timeline. That's why we use best efforts. This condition is virtually identical to a number of other special permits that have the same condition. So that language is identical in the Lazat Drive special permit and some others that I've worked on over the years. So this is something that we've done before.
Counselor Doucette?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I tend to be reviewing the green design section as well, and the one thing that caught me different on this draft versus others, and templates change over time, is just the idea that if the all-electric is not available, you have a fallback. The fallback is to do natural gas. I just want to put that out there.
Right.
So, the whole idea is to get away from the use of natural gas in new construction, okay? And so, if it comes back to here, I'm fine with that, okay? Because I want to know if this ends up going to natural gas, because I'd like to have a good explanation as far as why, because the intent overall is for the state to just get away from new construction using natural gas and have it all electric. And if the grid can't handle that, that's an issue that has to be addressed at the state, which I already have enough complaints about that. But I just want to make sure, the alternative here is natural gas, which is not what direction we want it to go. But thank you for that.
Right, and in Marlborough, we have not adopted the super stretch code, which does allow still the buildings to go natural gas. We've been trying to encourage all electric as we've gone through construction, both in the kitchens of restaurants that are going into the commercial side of multi-family buildings. But we can change this to be the applicant shall provide all electric if that is the sense we want to go with. Councilor Facillo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I promise I will get to this, but first I just want to thank you for your comments at the beginning of this meeting, welcoming me back to the committee. I am honored to be here. I would be remiss to not say that. I wish it was under better circumstances, and I'm very grateful to Councilor Sargent and his service to our country and to our community. So definitely, I know I speak for the whole council. All of our thoughts are with him and his family at this time. Going directly to this language, Attorney Falk, Scott, thank you both for being here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the applicant shall use best efforts to provide all electric utilities contingent upon the utility company. So if we were to strike best efforts, does it really change the language all that much, considering it's still contingent on the utility company being able to commit to that kind of service, right? So the phrase itself, best efforts, how much is it really doing here to begin with?
You're absolutely right, and we would hope to maintain that contingency, because we can't control that.
Yeah.
And we haven't had those initial discussions to verify. Right. I mean, this is not, compared to other projects that have been able to go all electric, this is much smaller, so the load would be much less. We don't anticipate this is going to be an issue, but we do have concerns, because this has been an issue in some places in terms of time delays.
Thank you, Attorney Falk. In my opinion, I feel like, even if we were to strike best efforts, both you and the city are covered under this contingency. That I do support keeping that there. So I'm at this time, right, I would kind of support the language that exists. I don't think striking best efforts does all that much.
Councilor Doucette?
Thank you much, Madam Chair. Just for clarification on stretch codes, the only use of natural gas is for restaurant stoves. Heating and cooling, well, heating for natural gas is not part of the stretch code. So, just to clarify that.
So getting back to the sentence, are we okay with the sentence as it is, so that it is really going to be up to the utility company being able to commit to them, which I think eventually they have to commit because we're requiring the electric, but is there an issue to strike best efforts or just leave it?
If we strike best efforts, does that mean it comes back to committee if they can't do it?
No, I think it would come back to the committee if we got rid of the contingent upon the utility company and we just said they will provide all electric utilities, period.
I would strike that. If they can't do it, I want them to come back here. I mean, how does the rest of the council or the committee understand that with that?
And I guess I did not read through this. As Attorney Fox said, this is the exact same language as other special permits. So if that's true, and we've approved other special permits and we haven't had any issues, why are we making this one an issue?
This is the first time, I specifically read through all the green stuff, and this is the first time I saw a back out in the wording. So I could have sworn I've gone through all the others, and I never saw that phrase before, because that caught me as new. So if you can, if this is an order that's already been presented and not in draft form, I would love to see it.
And without taking the time to go through the most recent special permits, I don't know that I can do that, but unless you've got something in your, I guess I would be okay with us making it be very clear that we want you to provide all electric utilities, and then let the solicitor determine if the language that's in here contingent is appropriate to stay when he does his review.
Madam Chair.
Counselor Fricillo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm fine with letting the solicitor take a crack at it, right? I just, in my opinion, I think, the contingency portion protects both the city and the developer in this case. That's just my opinion on this, right? That if the applicant shall, if we were to strike best efforts, the applicant shall provide all electric utilities contingent upon the utility company. I think that, right, that means you folks will go forward with the electric. If it doesn't work out, then, right, you'll have to make that transition. I don't see benefit in you guys having to come back before the council to tell us that. I think we'll know, we can do our own homework to find that out. But no, with that, Madam Chair, I do support the solicitor taking a look and advising us which way to go.
So are we okay leaving it in and let the solicitor decide if it should be removed? Or removing it and seeing if he thinks it should be added in? Counselor Vital, you have not spoken. I see your hand.
Just leave it and let the solicitor determine whether it's viable or not.
All right, I have not heard an actual motion from anybody, so without one,
For sake of argument, motion to strike the phrase contingent upon the utility being able to commit such service in the project's ordinary construction timeline. If we strike that, they come back. Let that go, let that be the vote of committee, one way or another.
so the sentence would really read, the applicant shall provide all electric utilities.
Best efforts to provide all electric utilities. And,
Well, we're striking best efforts. I thought
Okay,
that was
we
agreed
can get
upon
rid of that.
without an actual
yep,
motion.
shall use best effort, yep,
consensus.
shall provide all electric utilities. End of sentence.
All right, it's been moved. Is there a second? Counselor Prasad, you are seconding? All right, it's been moved and seconded to have the sentence read, the applicant shall provide all electric utilities. Is there further discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? 1, 2, 3. So that does not carry. So we're going to leave this as the applicant shall provide all electric utilities, keeping in the contingent upon the utility company being able to commit to such service. And our homework will be for everybody to look at other special permits and see if that language is in there. Councilor Preciado?
I do have a quick question. So if the utility company can't provide that service, that would essentially, that might essentially lower the amount of EV charging stations you have, or you are able to supply? Or would that,
For the entire building.
would that stay the same? What would we lose first?
Yeah, through the chair, this would pertain to utilities, heating, not, the EV requirement is still there, and the 10% is by code.
Gotcha, yeah. Thank you for that clarification, yeah.
Okay. All right, make a note to myself there. All right, moving on to number 9, mitigation funding. The applicant shall provide payment to the city in the total amount of $100,000 to be used by the city for sidewalk improvements along Ames Street, said payment to be deposited into the city's Ames Village Mitigation Stabilization Fund, account number to be established. The applicant shall make such payment to the city in 2 installments, with $50,000 paid prior to the issuance of a building permit for each of the 2 buildings. So this is related to the comment from the city engineer, and we have the suggestion from Councilor Ossing to actually change that to be the money goes to a richer school. So, discussion.
Madam Chair.
Councilor Fricillo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess what I'm looking for is kind of a best of both worlds here. So I had talked to the city engineer recently, and definitely appreciate the $100,000 in mitigation funding for the sidewalk. I'm incredibly grateful. I think, we can only have a rough estimate of what it could cost to extend the sidewalk, and it sounds like we could probably do it with $50,000. So in that same breath, I would be willing to alter the mitigation funding down to $50,000 total for these sidewalk improvements. However, with the condition that we add another condition right between 9 and 10, that would be for richer school funding, which would match President Ossing's suggestion, right? The applicant shall provide payment to the city, the total amount of $100,000 to be used for the new richer school, and that would go into the richer school account, which is already established. Now, what does that mean? It would be $50,000 added to the whole package of mitigation if you include the West Side Fire Station, richer school, and then the mitigation funding for the sidewalk, right? So I think the whole package is $190. This would bring it up to $240, right? Reducing the sidewalk by $50,000 and then adding $100,000 to richer school to match what President Ossing had suggested. But obviously happy to have a conversation about this, and thank you, Madam Chair.
So do you have comment as the petitioner?
Sure. So, in terms of overall impact, we originally left the 100,000, the purpose of it blank, because we really didn't have an idea. Our site has sidewalks, completely around it. And extending the sidewalk, if that's something the city wanted to do with the money, we didn't have a problem with it. It was the amount that we were comfortable committing to. In terms of school impact, we can get the contribution towards the fire station that's going to directly benefit the residents of this project. As an age-targeted project with the likelihood of students living here incredibly low, I don't know that we get a direct benefit that would tie to the project from the school contribution. The overall amount we're okay with. And as I mentioned earlier, comparing this project to a project that's a little more than double right up the street, we're already contributing, more per unit, slightly more per unit than that project. So, we're comfortable with, 50 for the sidewalk and 50 for the school, if the committee's amenable to that.
All right, I'm going to go with the committee members first. Councilor Vital, then I'll get to you. So are there any committee members with comments? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I think a 50-50 would be a reasonable compromise for this.
50-50, is that what you said?
50-50, 50 for the school, 50 for the sidewalk.
Any other committee members with comments? Councilor Navin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm supportive of Councilor Fricillo's motion, or it wasn't a motion, but just his point. I think if we're going to be doing, some money for the school, I think 50, look, any amount of money for the new elementary school that's going to cost, upwards of, plus $100 million, is going to be helpful, but I would rather have that $100,000 for that. That said, if we can squeak out a little bit more with our engineering department and with our DPW to extend sidewalks, I think that's great. So I don't want to negotiate against ourselves, but so I'm supportive of Councilor Fricillo's suggestion.
Councilor Preciado.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm also supportive of Councilor Fricillo's suggestion. And I just want to remind Attorney Falk that, we do live in a city where we all contribute some portion to every aspect of our city. So to say that just because there are no students that are going to be living in here does not mean that we're not going to contribute to the school either, because we all have a part. We all lend a certain portion of our taxes to every single service we have in the city, because that is the most beneficial way to run the city. We all contribute a little bit. So to say that, just because there are no students there doesn't mean we're not going to contribute. I hardly use emergency services. Should I contribute to that? It's the same kind of argument. So I just want to make a point out there.
Through the chair, I appreciate that. The point wasn't to say that we don't pay our fair share. The idea is that the taxes everyone pays isn't earmarked for anything that goes to everything. Conditions of a special permit are typically tied to some impact that's attributable to the project. That was the only point I was making in terms of why sidewalks, not schools.
Thank you for the clarification.
Counselor Vital.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Being a cross-country coach in that area for many, many, many years, I know those streets probably better than some of the residents. There's no sidewalk on Forest Street at all from Sandini, or anywhere, but from Sandini all the way down to Ames, there's no sidewalk. So you're saying that you're automatically going to bring it all the way to Sandini, or are you only going to cover in front of your property?
So this sidewalk idea from the city engineer would be from just north of our property on Ames Street down to the Halsted property, where then the sidewalk continues again. There is a gap.
Right, right, but there's no sidewalk
There is actually now.
from Sandini?
There is. It's relatively new, but it is. All along our frontage, there is sidewalk now to Sandini.
Is that new?
It's relatively new, yes.
Very good. I
I
stand
mean,
corrected.
If you go there, you'll see it. If you're looking at street view from home, there are some versions you won't see it because it's relatively new, and others that you will, so, but it is there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Counselor Oram.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I support Council Ficello's suggested changes. One thing that I really don't want to underestimate is what our city engineer has requested for the sidewalks, and I don't want to be torn between sidewalks and schools. I understand, Councilor, that, you know, we're putting that point, but I worked in a town that ended up having to put in sidewalks near condominiums in the town of Ashland on their dollar because the condominiums wanted more sidewalks to get to other facilities. And Councilor Vital brings out a very good point, too. Hopefully someday we'll see sidewalks on the entire Forest Street area. With that said, there's no guarantee that we've been told that children will not occupy here. It's not going to be 55 and over. I don't see any suggestions that it is. So with that said, there's no known knowledge if students will not live there. With that said, I agree with Councilor Ossing, President Ossing, with that 100,000. So again, back to Councilor Ficello's suggestion, I would be in favor of that as well, based on the fact, if it was a 55 and over, I might have another consideration for that, but if it's not a 55 and over, I can't understand why that 100,000 would be an issue. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
All right. I'm sorry, Counselor Ficillo?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I had intentionally not made a motion, just to try to get this conversation to stir, and I appreciate everybody's input. And I will make a formal motion, and I will amend it slightly to try to match some of the comments that we got from the petitioner and from the council here. So, I would support altering condition 9, the mitigation funding, to be $50,000 to be used for the city for the sidewalk improvements on Ames, to establish that account number, and that should be paid prior to the issuance of a building permit. Then I would also add that condition for the Richer School, but to match it to the West Side Fire Station, so $90,000, right? In fairness, to do 90 for Richer, 90 for the fire station, so those match. So rather than the 100,000, to be 90 and 90. If folks are following along with me here. So, it would be $1,000 for each multifamily dwelling unit it would be condition 10, It would slide down under mitigation funding. So I would move, Madam Chair, to amend the special permit, condition 9, that the applicant shall provide payment to the city in the total of $50,000 to be used for the sidewalk improvements, and that should be paid prior to the issuance of a building permit. To add a condition for Richer School funding, prior to the issuance of the first building permit, that it would be $1,000 for each multifamily dwelling unit to be developed in the respective building, So a maximum of $90,000 for the use, and then keeping condition 10, the fire station, So the fire station, Richer School match one another. That would be my motion, Madam
You
Chair.
would use Counselor Ossing's language to the applicant to make payments in 2 installments with the $45,000?
I would not. I would keep
No.
it to the same as West Side Fire,
So that it's-
we're basically giving 10,000 back from my original proposal to kind of meet somewhat, not in the middle, but to meet somewhere here.
Payment, but it doesn't say when the payment, make a payment for each to be developed in the respective building, to be
Proposed
used.
West Side
It
Fire
doesn't
Station.
say when it shall be made
Then I would amend that prior to the issuance of a building permit.
for both of them to read.
Yes, for both, and I would amend condition 10, which would slide down to 11, the same way.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, I will second that and just throw in some discussion. I think everybody else has given some, but we'll see what happens. I think with the most recent Lislot Drive special permit that was given, we've seen that we can throw in whatever we want for mitigation money when we added the ballparks, which have nothing to do with those houses. There's no guarantee that any of those houses will have kids that will use the ball field. So I don't see a problem with adding in Richer School into this. I do have actually more of an issue with the sidewalk, because to me, when we did a additional building on the commercial that's a little further north of this corner, we didn't require them to put a sidewalk in front of their building. And there is not much sidewalk on that side. It's actually all on the other side of the street. So I don't know that we necessarily have to pick on this developer, but I guess I won't be opposed to it. But I would look more to say, let's look for MassWorks grants to do Ames Street and add sidewalks on both sides. But I don't know that we'll go there. So I'm going to open it up. Anybody else has any further comments on the suggestion, or actually the motion, where we're going with $50,000 for sidewalks and $90,000 for Richer School? Who's first? Counselor?
Are you looking for a
Doucette.
second?
I already seconded.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's just discussion. Are we going?
Okay, just
are we-
discussion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Looking at condition 9, and I'm just wondering, what the strategy of the engineer was in proposing this amount. Must have been for a reason, to either cover the full cost. So I'm just worried about, if we're reducing that by half, are we going to still end up covering the other half, putting in $50,000 for whatever project this was estimated at? Just
I did not talk to the engineer about this to see if he thought this money was extravagant, not enough. If Councilor Facillo did, his comments were strictly to construct a new sidewalk to fill an existing gap on the east side of Ames Street, north of the site, in vicinity of 85 Ames Street. I don't know where 85 Ames Street is, and I didn't bother to look it up, so I was just figuring that this would be a discussion in site plan, and they would work it all out as to exactly where the sidewalk was going to be put in once we approve the special permit. So if there's input you have?
Yeah, I mean, so the $100,000 amount that we originally put forward, didn't have a purpose. I filled in sidewalk based on the city engineer's comments. We didn't have a discussion with him on the amount, but it sounds like Councilor Facillo did have a discussion with him, and that the ballpark was about half of that amount. So 50 towards the sidewalk based on that would go a long way, if not complete the job. I believe that's all city right-of-way. I don't know that for a fact, but I believe it is, given where the two segments of the sidewalk currently are. I would imagine that's city right-of-way, so there wouldn't be land acquisition costs. It's just straight-up work within the right-of-way. We're comfortable with Councilor Facillo's motion. So this would essentially, the all-in number that we have that we had put forward as 100 would move up to 140, with 50 going towards the sidewalk and 90 going towards the Richer School. I would just ask if we could retain the timing of the payments, breaking them up, because we may very well do these buildings in phases. And so the West Side Fire Station funding is $1,000 per unit based upon when we get a building permit for the buildings. We would advance half for one building and half for another. If we could maintain that structure, that would work well for us.
Madam Chair.
Councilor Facillo?
So moved. I understand now, right? The West Side Fire Station is to be done, as units are built, right? So the grand total is 90,000. Correct me if I'm wrong, Attorney Falk, right? So, right, in building into that, I think that's fine. I have no concerns with the timeline there, I'm fine with that.
So we're going back with this, such payments to the city in 2 installments, so it'd be 45 and 45, and you want that for both the West Side Fire and Richer School, but one payment for the sidewalk?
Yeah, I mean, the way we have it, through the chair, the way we have it structured is 1,000 per unit in the West Side Fire Station funding, so it would work out. In all likelihood, one building will have 48 units, one will have 42, so we'll be sort of split that way. What's currently condition 9, which is now going to be, I think, split into a 9 and a new 10, one amount for $90,000 for Richer School, and then $50,000 for the sidewalk. We would split those up because they're not a per unit payment, they're just a flat number, where we would have, 25 for the sidewalk for the first building, 25 for the sidewalk for the second building, and then 45 for the school payment.
All right, so it is, are splitting it up for all 3 things?
We would prefer
Prior
that if
to
we
the
could.
issuance of the building permit for each of the 2 buildings, keeping that language for,
Correct.
okay, I'll work it out, and
We're-
you'll make
we're
sure that the
comfortable
language is correct.
Right.
I'm sure you'll send me
Yep.
changes, so I can put it in my actual notes so that the solicitor knows what we agreed to. So is everybody clear on that? All 3 of them would be split. It's $50,000 for streets, $90,000 both for Richer and the West Side Fire Station, and the auditor will get us a new number for the Ames Village Mitigation Stabilization Fund, and I don't think we have a Richer School Fund yet, so, actually, we do. No. We do. The auditor's got to provide it. I don't know why, I think. All right, so everybody is okay with that. Discussion-wise, I'll do an actual vote. All those in favor of the motion? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Preciado, you have a comment first?
Questions. So if this building were to be built in phases, do you guys have any proposed timeline between the buildings, or are you guys still unsure about like what that timeline's going to look like? I know that there's some material concerns and some labor cost concerns, especially with increasing prices. I don't know what that kind of plan sets for you guys. I don't know if you have.
Through the chair. We don't have a defined timeline. We would anticipate building one building, completing it, and then rolling directly into the next building. That would be the intent. The response to the market, and if the first building's sitting empty and no one's buying it, then we know we have a problem there. And so it might result in a delay. But other than that, we would intend to complete the project in succession.
Okay. Okay, just wondering what that payout would look like if it's phased out in terms of time.
Right, so it could be somewhere between a year to 18 months if things move in direct, process, if you will, from the initial payment to the building permit being pulled for the second building.
Understood, thank you.
Any other questions? Discussion. All those in favor of the motion to amend? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, perfect. Thank you all for indulging us down that. We are at 11, which will then be renumbered as we adjust all of this. Landscaping. A detailed landscaping plan for the site shall be reviewed and further conditioned during the site plan review process. The landscaping plan shall be more robust than is required by the zoning ordinance and shall provide shade canopy and use native plants to improve habitat. The applicant and all subsequent owners shall maintain the landscaping at the site for the duration of the use. Number 12, lighting. Exterior lighting at the site shall be downward facing and shielded to minimize impacts of neighboring properties, with a lighting plan for the site to be reviewed and further conditioned during the site plan review process. 13, open space.
Madam Chair?
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you much, Madam Chair. So this section has been written and rewritten a couple of times. So just as a summary, why are certain sections highlighted and striked and not striked in red?
Through the chair, the limitations of my redlining when I did create this, Condition 13 was not there previously. Priscilla Ryder had suggested language for it, and so I plunked that in. In discussing it with my client, we had a few things that we wanted to change. So the things that I changed are highlighted in yellow. So any new language that's there that's not in strike-through is new language that I added, and anything in strike-through is language that I suggested be changed. And
didn't make it.
What's that?
And didn't make it.
Correct.
Okay.
And just to summarize what our logic was, the first portion, I'm acknowledging the provision of the zoning ordinance that does require that we provide this buffer, so everyone is clear, and the amount of the buffer shown on the plans. The other changes are designed with our neighbors in mind. Our neighbors were clear when we met with them that they wanted the open space buffer, but they didn't want activity. They wanted this just to be nature. So trails, birdhouses, things that were going to bring people into that area, something that the neighbors to us, they were concerned with. So this, for us, a walking trail, we don't really have a dog in that fight beyond that. We're trying to honor what our neighbors had talked to us about when we met with them. This is something that they wanted this to just be nature, just a buffer area, and not something where there would be activity. So that's the reasoning for the changes that I made elsewhere in this condition. So we leave it as a natural buffer area, but we don't have trails, and we don't have other potential benches and things like that. That was the basis for that.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
All right, Councilor Preciado.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. In this section, right, I'm wondering what the wildlife management is going to look like if you guys are going to leave everything the way it is natural. We do know that you will get skunks, foxes, right, like possums, typical wildlife that we see in the city. Are there any concerns with that reaching towards the front of the buildings? People using the trails in the back, are there any concerns with that? Are there going to be any kind of mitigation procedures for something like that if you guys are attempting to leave this at its natural state? And I'm also wondering, this is a bit further down the road once the building is built, but if there are any potential rodent or pest management, either boxes or whatever you guys are using, because the city recently passed, or maybe a couple years ago now, a ban on rodenticide, second-generation rodenticide on city property, and I'm wondering if you guys would be willing to comply with that as well, seeing as how you guys are planning to keep this wildlife area as natural as possible, because we know through experience that these rodenticide boxes will kill the wildlife that is here, whether it be direct or indirect. So I'm just wondering that, and if we could offer protections for that and to preserve this as much as possible as you guys want, or as you guys say.
Through the chair, those are good questions. Those are things that I spoke with Priscilla Ryder about. We don't just want this, in her mind, from the city's perspective, don't want this to just be left alone without any sort of a management plan, because things like invasive species or pest management, things that do come up. And so what this condition does is set some parameters for a management plan that would be further dealt with in site plan review. And so we're going to work with the site plan review committee on that, and that's sort of the basis of the condition, is to set the general parameters of what the open space buffer would be and what it would look like, but then to work with the professional staff on some of the rules of the game. So yeah, we're leaving it in its natural state, but invasive species, they're part of nature, but they're a problem. Do we have the ability, and does the city have enforcement requirement that we deal with those issues? And so that's the entire point of the condition.
Thank you so much. I would just like to remind you that they're only pests because people are living there, right? Thank you.
All right, I'm going to read through this, and then we can continue discussion, because we are just seeing the changes that you've made tonight. Open space, as required by section 65039.2F2 of the zoning ordinance, and as shown on the plans, the use will preserve approximately 5.87 acres of the site as a natural vegetated buffer. This open space shall be kept in its natural condition to create a buffer for the single-family neighborhood to the north and east of the site, support wildlife habitat, provide environmental benefits, and improve livability and aesthetics. As part of formal site plan review, the Site Plan Review Committee shall work with the applicant to develop a long-term management plan for this open space area. This plan should outline tree and plant management practices and responsibilities, including invasive plant management and any other land management considerations deemed necessary by the Site Plan Review Committee. No additional buildings or structures on this open area shall be permitted. The management plan shall also outline the maintenance needed, if any, to the existing abandoned detention basin near the border of Teller Street. So that is removing anything about walking trails, some of that detail about climate resilience. I personally think that removing the walking trail is not a bad idea. I know the neighbors did not really want people to be back there. Even having it be residents only becomes scary because there is another residential area that people will be trying to cut through. So comments on the paragraph as read with the, taking what Ms. Ryder sent and the amendments. Everybody's okay? I'm sorry,
not on
Councilor
the
Oram?
committee, but I wanted to wait for other members. I just had a question on the last sentence, if I may. The management plan shall also outline the maintenance needed, if any, to the existing abandoned detention basin near the border of Teller Street. What is the existing condition of that detention basin, if known?
Yeah, Madam Chair. So as part of earlier construction efforts, 18 years ago or something like that, areas were graded out and a detention basin was formed in that area. And since that it was fenced, since that time it's mostly overgrown and naturalized, and we do not intend, because it's on the other side of the hill, to do anything with it as part of this development project. So that's the existing detention basin. The fence would be removed. I think that was one of the items that was discussed, and it would be left to just grow in naturally.
Okay, but there's no drainage going, if I may, there's no drainage going into it right now?
There's no active pipe into that. It was set up for the future, subdivision development that was
And
proposed
one question
previously.
related to your drainage, where's your drainage going?
All of that is kept on the front side, the road side of the site, where it would be managed both in front and behind the buildings. And then there is another existing detention basin that is on the tail end of Glen Street, just prior to Ames.
In your front and back, near your buildings would be underground drainage, Caltex
Yes.
or whatever?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you as well.
All right, number 14. Compliance with applicable laws. The applicant agrees to comply with all municipal, state, federal rules, regulations, and ordinances. They may apply to the construction, maintenance, and operation of the use. And number 15 is the recording of the decision with the usual. This needs to be recorded with the Middlesex South Registry of Deeds after the city clerk has certified 20 days for appeal. With that, are there any other comments, questions? Motion.
Motion to approve, as amended.
Councilor Doucette has moved to approve. I'm going to second. Is there further discussion? Councilor Preciado.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did want to get back to the affordable housing or affordable units section, just because I have some concerns about this project, and it stated that it is age-targeted by essentially stripping the building of its amenities. So you guys are targeting it towards a older population, looking for retirees, and just looking at statistics from the state, the median income for a retired person in Massachusetts is $61,000 a year. I'm wondering how they're going to be able to afford a unit in this building, just based off of those numbers alone. If it's targeted for seniors but it's not affordable for them, I would suggest raising the amount of affordable units in those buildings if it's supposed to be age targeted.
Counselor Preciado, we can't raise it, it's in our code.
The developer can?
No, we can't, it's in the code. The number is specific in the code.
The developer can? Right?
We approve a special permit based on the code. We've had this conversation before. We can't just pick a number
Okay.
for every single project. We've got to go with what we agreed to as a city council for what we wanted for affordable when developers come to us, and it's 12%.
Understood. That makes it very hard for me to vote on this because it just seems a bit facetious to target this for a particular age when it's unaffordable to them.
If I may, through the chair, and I think I mentioned this at the hearing, the typical buyer in this type of a product is someone that already owns their own home, ideally without a mortgage. They've paid it off and they're looking to downsize. And so they are buying a condo unit that is less than what their current home, larger home, 4-bedroom, 3-bedroom, is selling for. So, looking at Marlboro, I'm seeing 3-bedroom ranches selling for $600,000. A $500,000 unit here would be, with a surplus of $100,000. The other thing is, the typical buyer here isn't necessarily a retiree. 55, I don't want to date myself, but I'm about 6 years removed from having an empty nest myself and being potentially a target for this particular property. So many of the folks that would be buying here have, a decade or more of work ahead of them. They're not necessarily retired. They're empty nesters looking to downsize. So, in terms of affordability, that is the typical buyer here, someone that is downsizing from a home that's valued considerably more and what they're buying this condo unit for. And the affordable component, it does help the city in terms of maintaining its position with the SHI and actually having affordable units for people to buy.
Thank you. Just because I have been curious about the housing market in Marlboro, what I have noticed trending is a lot of listings going up at a certain price and then substantially dropping their price over the course of months, pulling listings, relisting them. And I've seen it happen throughout the course of the past 2 years. So I just like that to make that bit of information known to the committee.
Counselor Doucette, did I see a hand? No.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. If this was in Ward 2, I'd probably be considering actually doing a downsize to it, just, considering the value of the house, and, if we get to the point of being empty nest, this is the target I'd be looking for, to do this. What I see as the opportunity with this is, living on one floor and in a condominium when you get to be a certain age is really nice compared to going up and down 2 or 3 flights of stairs, So I think that's the big advantage of this type of approach. And it would be nice if other proposals coming to the council were not apartments, but actually condominiums, but I'll just leave it at that. So, thank you.
Counselor Oram? Oh, Counselor Patillo.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Councilor Oram. Attorney Fox, Scott, thank you for entertaining my amendments earlier. I appreciate it. But I do want to take some time to, you've probably heard some of this before, but I'm in full support of this project. I was in support of the overlay change, and I am in support of the special permit tonight as amended. I want to talk about just a few highlights about this project that are unique to this project and unique to things that we've seen before, right? So thinking about the project itself, it's 90 units. One of the smaller things we've had to consider as a council compared to what comes before us quite often. With 12% affordable units, right, not perfect, I agree, Councilor Preciado, but is what's on the books right now. And so that offers residents both market rate and affordable units here in Marlboro, which is needed. And the reason I know it's needed is we just got occupancy data for the things we've already built, and they are filling up fast. Yes, there are people from other towns and other cities, but it's a larger issue in housing across the Commonwealth where there is a supply and demand issue, and Marlboro has an opportunity to be forward-thinking and continue to be forward-thinking by building more housing, by working with developers to get the best out of a project, right? Tonight we had a great conversation about what this mitigation package is going to look like, and I feel good about what we did. I do want to talk about some of those units, right, that have come online. We're talking 96% capacity, 85, expected to be 95, right? So again, there's a need for this kind of housing right here in Marlboro immediately. Not only that, 5.87 acres of open space is fantastic, right? Compared to what we're used to, this is great. This is good for Marlboro. It's good for the kind of projects that we want to see here, and it's good for the residents in the neighborhood who have come to us time and time again to tell us that they much prefer this project over single-family homes. We can't emphasize enough, right? $475,000 worth of estimated annual tax revenue. And considering what we're facing as a city, what we saw last year with our budget, right? The budget continues to get higher, and we all know, right, 3 things pay for the budget: local receipts, state aid, and property taxes. Property taxes went up last year. And, right, we have a budget that is growing. So how are we going to pay for it? This project immediately puts money into the city coffers through growth, right? Local receipts, our building permits, fire, all those sort of codes and fees come directly to the city, right? State aid we know is stagnant, so we need revenue sources, and this is a good project for our city. Not 1, but 2 ward councilors support this project, Councilor Brown and the current Ward 4 councilor, right, Councilor Gould. So we have the buy-in from the ward councilors themselves. I know that councilors unanimously supported Lazat Drive, right, the Glenwood project, which, mind you, is twice the size of this one, right, twice the number of units. It's still condominiums, and it protects no open space. So we are getting a project that is a very strong contender for a very good project. I am strongly in support of it. Really not enough good things I can say about the conversations we've had throughout this, and I do encourage folks to vote yes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. You do Councilor Ossing proud. Councilor Oram?
Thank you. I'll lead off from there. Yes, housing does help with our tax burden, but talk to your local fire chief, police chief, school superintendent. They are at the max, and we know from just dealing with the budget that increased residents in Marlboro will increase the need for services, might it be fire, police, schools, city hall, whatever it might be, DPW, additional traffic on our streets. So there's definitely demand that's caused by additional housing. We can't ignore that. We're going to be doing the budget very soon. We cannot ignore the fact that these departments are at their limits because of the additional housing. But housing, indeed, on the other side of this, as you mentioned, Councilor Ficello, does help with the tax burden, but we have to realize the responsibility as city councilors of the needs of the departments that come to us during budget time. And so I would like to bring that up. And the question I have, because I brought this up during the rezoning, would you consider this being a 55 and over? That would make me more comfortable knowing that no one's going to be occupying with students. And the demand I just mentioned on the schools is concerning to me. Would you be willing to consider making this a 55 and over project? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Attorney Falk, do you want to answer that, or do I need to go to the code, which I'd have to look up for sure, but I don't think this can be without some zoning change.
I don't know off the top of my head whether without an ordinance provision that permits it, whether we can do it voluntarily. I know that does happen in some other places, but candidly, I don't know the answer to that. But one of the reasons we did this as age targeted rather than age restricted is because, as the council has seen, deed restrictions on units can be problematic for the owners. They don't get the benefit of the appreciation in value because of that restriction, because the marketability is more limited in terms of who may buy it. And the management and somewhat bureaucracy tied to maintaining that system can be problematic and difficult to manage. In our experience, and Scott can speak to this, having done this product elsewhere, designing it to be age targeted has the desired effect that you might see in a restricted over 55 in terms of the average age of the resident and the very low incidence of school children being there. So looking at overall flexibility for the people who will own these units, that's why we didn't look to do it as an age-restricted project.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other comments? Councilor Fricillo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one thing I do want to emphasize, and I appreciate Councilor Orham's comments, right? We face some significant challenges, as do many municipalities. And, you know, in my opinion, right, I am bought in as well as all of my councilors in meeting this moment, in meeting these challenges, right? That's why we approved a $6.9 million school budget increase, right, to make sure our schools are funded. That's why we always approve mid-year transfers and year-end transfers to make sure our department heads are okay, right? And the money is always there. We find time and time again, right? We're going to build a new fire station for Marlborough. Right? That's a major investment we're making to meet this moment. Yes, because there's a housing demand and we're trying to meet that too. So, you know, and I almost forgot, the new Richer School, right? We're building a school that's going to accommodate 950 students. It's going to afford us an opportunity to redistrict our school district, to really get it right this time, right? Like, we have all of these opportunities, and we're working hard to meet them, right? I don't think these 90 units, I only think they add to the character of our city and add to what we're trying to accomplish. They don't detract, right? And this idea that building single-family homes is a better option, right? We had that debate with the zoning change, right? And here we are. We have the special permit, right? The overlay passed. This is the special permit. I strongly believe 90 units is so much better than single-family homes, because these units will open up single-family homes in our community for new families, for folks to come to Marlborough, for folks who are already in Marlborough, who are renters, who want an opportunity to have housing. So, Councilor Orham, I completely understand these concerns and I agree, but I'm just as eager to meet this moment, right? I'm eager to accept these challenges and try to take them on. And so, you know, again, I'm still in support of this project, and I'm still in support of all the things we do year in and year out to make sure the city runs smoothly. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So just quickly looking at the code, it does say 65021 is retirement community residence districts in all portions of the city indicated on the city zoning map as retirement community resident districts. And I don't think this is in that map. So this cannot be a retirement community as we have it in the code. Councilor Doucette, and then I think we're probably ready to take a vote.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I just want to make a final comment about this project, because I've seen numerous projects presented for this property, okay, over the time. I've been in the council now for 10 years, and every couple of years, something new comes in for this area, okay? And the hardest part was actually getting it through the council, because quite a few didn't make it through the council. And I was just embarrassed by some of the ones, because, you know, I think at the end, this is probably, all kidding aside, this is the best presentation I've seen to address this property area as condominiums and reasonable income, you know, for that. And I think that if this does not pass, this property is going to be just sitting there for another 5 or 10 years until the next round comes around. And they're going to try another tweak and make it a little different and come back to us again. I think this is really a good solution. I hope that.
Build houses.
Huh?
We don't approve this, they're gonna build houses.
Councilor Vidal.
They could build houses by right, but there's other issues with that. In any case, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. Any last minute final, Councilor Vidal, did you want to say something, or, all right. In that case, it's been moved and seconded to approve the grant of a decision for a special permit as amended. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3. All those opposed? 2. All right, so this will be reported out on Monday. I will ask for a suspension for it to go to the solicitor, and then we'll be back on a future agenda with, ready to go for a vote of the full council.
Great, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, if I may I just
Mr.
thank
Weiss?
the council. I appreciate Councilor Doucette's final comments, all of your comments. I think you're right. We have struggled with this property for many, many years. It's been a very challenging location, and we've stumbled along the way a number of times. What's made the difference is engaging the neighborhood and coming up with a plan that's supported by the people who already live there. And that's why we've ended up where we are, and we hope that, you know, we have the ability to continue to move forward. But thank you all for your time.
All right. So you don't need to come Monday, but we'll probably see you at a future meeting. I'm going to take up the next two. I'm going to run quick to get some water because I seem to have a scratchy throat. And if you are here and plan on speaking, if you want to take a chair, I'll be right back. Our agenda, I'm sorry that the two of you had to sit for this. First one is order number 26-100-9700, communication from Code Enforcement Officer Ethan Lippett, request for approval of a canopy flat wall sign, 57 Main Street within the Downtown Business District. And we can take them together, I guess, although they are sort of separate. The other one is order number 26-100-9701, a communication from Code Enforcement Officer Ethan Lippett regarding a request for approval of a blade sign, 57 Main Street, within the Marlboro Village District. Gentlemen, if you want to identify yourselves, please. If you have any comments, we can proceed.
Madam Chair?
Oh, I'm sorry, who? Councilor Doucette?
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I would like to applaud Ethan Lippett for putting all this information in place to define in specifically how they're compliant and how they're not compliant. This is a perfect presentation for us to understand what's going on. And, thank you, Ethan, because he's probably watching this, so I want to give him the credit for that. And, this is, I'm assuming the 57 Main is basically an LED backdrop with self-illuminating letters and everything that are going to be standalone, which is the latest technology in using LED displays for, presentation and signage. So we can't keep up with our code can't keep up with the technology, so it ends up here. But I think overall, I'm in complete support of both of these, and hope anyone else has any other comments.
All right, we will have some discussion because I think we got to make sure we are following the rules. So if you two would like to identify yourself, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Will Nuccio. I work for the Procopio Company. It's good to see you all again. With me is Tim Sullivan. Mr. Sullivan works for Mainline, so they're our signage manufacturer, fabricator, and they'll be the installer as well. 57 Main, we're very proud of it. We're close to the end here. We're close to C of O. We're a couple of weeks out there with the support of this council. As we get there, there are two signs. Tim's going to talk through the specifics of the signs. We've worked closely with the building commissioner's office to really dial this in. There were a few more variances than we're showing tonight, but we've dialed those in, and we think these fit the property and the neighborhood. So Tim, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, just a point, and it's not your fault, it's my fault. I didn't catch your name.
Will Nuccio from Procopio.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
For the record, I'm Tim Sullivan from Mainline. To Councilman Duquette's comment, this kind of a synopsis makes my job a whole lot easier as well. It kind of focuses down on what we need to address, and we're not getting stuck in the weeds talking about some things that don't pertain to the project. The first sign to address is a canopy sign on Exchange Street. This sign is intended to be...
And if you don't mind, I'm going to read through the communication, and then once we get through all of it, then we can have your discussion. Did you?
I apologize. I need to recuse myself from this. I'm in a butter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then, thank you for letting me know. Okay, so I'm going to start with, as he just said, the flat wall sign. So the communication from Mr. Lippert is very detailed. I also then have a communication from the solicitor that I requested, because when this was first brought to the council, it wasn't clear where it should go. So with communication, it was clear that it went to the council and not to the planning board and not to ZBA. To City Council President and all councilors, included in this form is an applicant seeking relief from City Council as it relates to the signage. Address of location is 57 Main Street. Internally illuminated flat wall signs mounted on a canopy in the downtown business district have a number of ordinances pertaining to them as follows. 5:26.5 illumination. The light from any sign or advertising light shall be shaded, shielded, or directed, or shall be maintained at a sufficient low level of intensity. The proposed sign is compliant with this ordinance. I'm not going to really read through all of it, because, especially when they're compliant. 5:26-9 non-residence districts. The following regulations pertain to signs in business, industrial, limited industrial, and this is in the downtown business district, so they don't apply. B, flat wall signs. The location of flat wall signs shall be located anywhere on any wall of a building occupied by a business establishment, and the flat wall sign shall be mounted to a canopy. Number 2, canopy, marquee, or awning sign. Location, a sign may be located on any face of a canopy, marquee, or awning located on the first floor level only. The proposed sign is compliant with this section. B, area. The area of the sign on the face of the canopy, marquee, or awning shall be included within the total allowable area for flat wall signs, and this is compliant. C, illumination. The canopy, marquee, or awning may be backlit except in the downtown business district, and the proposed sign will be non-compliant with this as it will be internally illuminated. L, downtown business district. Applicability. The special provisions in this subsection shall be applicable solely to buildings having frontage on Main Street between Mechanic and Maple, Florence Street between Main and Dow, Newton Street between Main Street and Granger, Windsor Street, Weed Street, and Court Street. And the proposed sign is within the downtown business district. Special regulations within the downtown business district. The following special regulations shall apply. The size of the signs and the flat wall signs shall be 50 square feet. The maximum shall be 50 square feet, and the maximum area on the third facade shall be 10, and the proposed sign is compliant. B, the number of signs. The flat wall signs shall be 1 per facade, and they are compliant. Lighting. Interior illuminated signs. Interior illuminated signs are not allowed either on the exterior of the facade, on freestanding signs, or in the interior of windows, and the proposed sign will be non-compliant with this as it will be internally illuminated. And from the solicitor, in my opinion, each sign would require the following permitting. For the flat wall canopy, sign ordinance variance by the planning board to authorize interior illumination of the sign. Sign permit approval by the city council. Under chapter 526 of the city code, both signs would require a sign permit by the building commissioner. Under the amended and restated site plan approval with conditions for this mixed-use project, condition G5 provides that the city council retains jurisdiction over signs, quote, to the extent such signage requires a sign permit, unquote. The design material and dimensions are subject to review and sign permit approval from the city council, quote, which must meet the requirements of section 650-34I of the zoning code in court. End quote. Therefore, in my opinion, in order for the signs to meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance, section 650-34I, which states that it is in addition to the sign ordinance requirements, the above permitting is required. I will address each sign in detail below. For the flat wall canopy, the building department determined that the canopy flat wall sign does not comply with the requirements concerning internal illumination. Zoning ordinance section 650-34 provides that the sign ordinance applies to signs in the Marlboro Village District in addition to any provisions in Section 650-34. Section 650-34 does not address canopy, flat wall signs, or internally illuminated signs specifically. Therefore, the sign ordinance and the zoning ordinance do not conflict as to this sign. The property is located in the downtown business district for purposes of the sign ordinance. All provisions in the sign ordinance applicable to non-residence districts apply in the downtown business district. Under the sign ordinance, interior illuminated signs are not allowed on the facade exterior in the downtown business district. Under Chapter 526, a variance from the sign ordinance may be granted, quote, in specific cases which appear to it not to have been contemplated by this chapter, and in cases where in its enforcement would involve practical difficulties if in each instance desirable relief may be granted without substantially derogating from the intent and purpose of this chapter, but not otherwise. So I would argue that we haven't not kept up. We have said there will be no illuminated signs downtown unless they go to the planning board for a sign variance. So I know that was highlighted in the comments from Mr. Lippett, that other than the fact that it is interior illuminated, it meets all the other requirements. And there are multiple signs downtown that are just like this one, that are lit non-internally. So it can be done. We can approve this without the illumination. They can then go and take the next steps if they really want it to be illuminated to get a variance. So I will open for discussion. Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So when the sign ordinance was put in place, the technology wasn't there to do something like the 57 Main sign, which is just a string of light and no backing. It's just, you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's the bar that goes across for the entrance, and the numbers are just almost a floating stencil over the entrance, right? And that's where the technology has gone in the umpty years since this was proposed, and we're seeing more of that versus less. So in the phrase, in specific cases which appeared to it not have been contemplated by this chapter, cases were enforced involve practical difficulty. They didn't know this was going to happen. I mean, you know, I remember having heated discussions with the prior Urban Affairs chair, because I thought what the intent was to have forward lit, have a sign and have an old-fashioned gooseneck lights to light the sign. And that's what he wanted to see, and the technology was moving away from that very rapidly, and has moved away from that to a point where, the letters glow. And I think that is where the modern technology has been. So if it is possible for us to approve this under that exception, I think we should, as internal illumination for this case, because it wasn't contemplated to have something like this. The 57 Main is going to be a work of art. I mean, it's not just going to be a sign, it's going to be a work of art. So I like the way it looks, and I think that, and I got to compliment these guys, and if we can fit this within the order, and I think that type of design definitely was not contemplated by the tech, when this thing was proposed.
And I would argue that they were contemplated and have been before this council in the past and have been rejected because of the downtown Marlborough district zoning that specified no internal illumination for signs. And every other project has come before us with filling that requirement. They can make this work. They can have the scrolling 57 Main Street and light it up externally if they took the time to make it work. And I think that's where we need to keep taking that stand until somebody moves to change the downtown Marlborough Village district zoning, which hasn't been done so far. Counselor, I'm going to go with
I'll wait for
Counselor
the
Nabin
committee.
first.
Thank you,
and
Madam Chair.
Counselor Nabin?
Yeah, could I address that concern, or?
Oh, please.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This sign that we're proposing is actually on Exchange Street, and I know it's still part of the downtown district, but this sign is going to identify the main entrance into the property for residents and guests, because being a residential property, we have to assume that there's going to be visitors to the property. It's a known, you can go down Main Street, and an internally illuminated sign is going to be a lot more visual than the gooseneck spotlit signs. They tend to wash out and basically light the entire facade, as opposed to controlling the light to just be the letters themselves. As you're approaching the property, the entrance sits back up Exchange Street, and it's our intention for the wayfinding public to be able to see the entrance into the property, to be able to realize where they have to negotiate the turn to get up to the parking garage or parking up that Exchange Street. And the only way to do that concisely is to do it with an internally illuminated sign. A gooseneck spotlit sign is just going to kind of wash the whole facade and not really identify the property. I understand the board's concern with internal illumination. And to that concern, I would propose that we install a dimmer as part of the sign package. So if it becomes unsightly to the town and it's, out of keeping with the downtown district, then we have the ability to control the illumination of it and tone it back. We've done this in other communities where they kind of have the same situation going on. But in our mind, it's the most concise and safest way to show the entrance into the property.
Counselor Nabin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for those comments. I appreciate them. We spend more time talking about signs, and I both regret that we do, but at the same time, I often find myself with an opinion and wanting to weigh in on it. So I appreciate Councilor Doucette's comments about how the technology has evolved. I think that has evolved. You guys have heard me say this. One of the things that drives me crazy is that we set standards and then one after another, we kind of let things go. We see it all the time in the Wayside District, which is a pet peeve of mine. That, our goal is to create an aesthetic and a standard, and then we kind of let it go piece by piece. So I am sympathetic to your points, Councilor Roby. We've worked hard on the downtown village. We've worked hard to try to create that aesthetic. When I think about a successful gooseneck externally illuminated sign, I think of the Vin Bin. I think it creates a nice gateway to Main Street. It does so in a way that does make it easy to read. I'm not completely unsympathetic to your point about the wayfinding public and the way this is going to face. I also would like this building to blend in as much as possible, and I know that that's kind of hilarious thinking about it now and the construction that's going on and how gigantic the building is. But I think as it has evolved, it has kind of settled into that space, and I personally would like to see it continue to do that as much as possible. So, Councilor Ruby, I find myself in your camp on this issue. Thank you.
Any further comments? Counselor Fricillo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Quick question. So, there's been some talk about what if it was externally illuminated. You had mentioned that, it's a more controlled light when it's internally illuminated. Can you kind of elaborate? Which would be more, where do we have more control over the light itself, external or when it's internal? Yeah.
Thank you. With regards to the internal illumination, the light will only be coming out the shapes of the letters.
Right.
And these letters are a very thin stroke letter. It's not a large, blocky type style. It's a very tasteful logo, I feel. When you go the route of externally illuminating with spotlights, you need to wash the area as opposed to having the concise light coming out of the actual letters themselves. And when you start dealing with a residential community like this, you're gonna have to direct the lights back up into the letters, and on the backside of those letters are residents. So again, we're gonna have to force the light at the residents, where if you're face lighting it, the light is going away from the tenants.
No, thank you. I appreciate the clarification. And, I find myself agreeing with Councilor Doucette. I think to keep up with the times, right, we have to amend the sign ordinance. And I understand that there are things in place, Chair Roby, right now, that say a certain thing. But I don't mind taking them on a case-by-case basis like this and tend to agree. I think it's a tasteful logo. I think that the design itself is good. I think it fits. I could see this at some point blending into downtown, right? This is, I understand Councilor Naven's concern that, right, this is a larger project, and now we're going to be adding something that is different, right? It's not in character with the rest of downtown, but I think we're seeing downtown changing, and I'm not so concerned about the internal illumination. I think it could be an interesting characteristic of the building that makes it unique, that kind of draws attention to it, and I'm not opposed to that. So for that reason, I do find myself in Councilor Doucette's boat. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Right. I will reiterate the language from the solicitor. Under the sign ordinance, interior illuminated signs are not allowed on the facade exterior in the downtown business district. He does go on to say that they can get a variance, which I believe I will refer to the parking sign that Wemmy's asked for on the side of the parking garage, which was not approved as eliminated, and they went to the planning board and they got a variance. So that is now a illuminated sign in the downtown village district. We can't approve an illuminated sign. We can approve one without internal illumination sign. We can approve one and ask them to figure out how to externally illuminate it, and I would argue that that building is big enough that they could put the gooseneck so that they're downward facing to illuminate that sign and not impact the residents that will be up above the building.
Madam Chair? Just
Sorry,
a quick
who?
question. So where would they go for a variance in the sign ordinance? Because it does say.
Planning board,
Just the planning board?
I believe so.
Can I
Planning
answer a
board is
question,
the organization that does sign. They don't like it,
Okay, if that's,
but that's their job. So
Okay.
they can get approval here and then decide if they want to go forward or not.
can we get that clarified?
Mr. Nucio, did you have a question? I'm sorry, your hand was
so
up there.
on our project conditions, the job was approved through city council. So one of our project conditions, I believe, the signage has to be approved through city council. So I don't know, we would have to go back to planning board.
You would get the approval from us first for a non-internally illuminated sign. If you want to push it, you would have to go to the planning board for a variance. If they don't give it to you, you go with the sign we approve. If they give it to you, you get the sign
Okay.
they approve.
There seems to be not clarification as far as who handles who handles the downtown district. I mean, we can look it up, or should we,
The city council does.
so then we still have to approve a variance?
No, we don't approve variances. We have to approve the code as it exists, and they go to the planning board for a variance.
No, I just thought, okay. I would like to get this clarified by the solicitor before I vote on this issue.
I just read it to you. Under Chapter 526, a variance from the sign ordinance may be granted in cases which appear to it not to have been contemplated by this chapter, and in cases wherein an enforcement would involve practical difficulties if
Right.
in each instance.
Right, my question is who actually does the variance? Because I thought that the Marlboro Village District signage was under control of the city council, not under the planning board. And maybe for the rest of the city, it's the planning board, but I think to the point, I think we have the signs for downtown. And I don't want to vote on this one way or another until that gets resolved.
All right, give me a second. Yes, I'm sorry, did someone else have their,
No, I was just going to make a comment, Madam Chair. It's similar to a few years ago with the Shell station on Pleasant Street in we had an issue on that we thought it had to go because it was not in the district zone. So we did not at that point have to go to planning for the variance on that one, but that's because it's not in that particular zoning. So you are correct. I believe for a variance, they would go to planning.
Counselor Vidal?
I like the signs, guys, very much, and very creative. But I'm curious, I just recently, like in the last couple of weeks, saw that you guys are posting for the retail space that's going to be in the front on the Main Street side of these buildings. Are you anticipating any additional signage as those new tenants come in?
Yeah, yes. So on the site plan approval, there was template sign locations on the front of the building on Main Street. So we have reserved those sign locations for our retail tenants, and that's why we're putting our resident sign on Exchange Street. They will come in front of City Council though on their own, probably with some help from us once we figure out who the tenants are.
So it's quite possible that this body, if it improved the internally illuminated signs, then your tenants could also, because now we've set a precedent that they too could get the internally illuminated signs, since it's the same building.
Each sign has to get its own approval.
I'm not saying it doesn't, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm still trying to find where it is in the sign ordinance, which is 526, and I'm not getting there. Did somebody else? Counselor Oram?
Thank you. And I concur with Councilor Vidal. I mean, these are sharp-looking signs, but at the same time, working in the regulatory world all my life, we set a precedent to our present ordinances. So if we do it for you, why shouldn't we do it for everyone else in downtown Village or within the business? That's the problem we have here. Either we come here as a city council and change that ordinance, but to do it for one and have all these other people on Main Street in the area, in my view, is not appropriate. The way we're doing it is not appropriate. And then the other note I just wanted to make was, if I'm looking for something and I'm out of town, I get that GPS on. I'm going to find it. I mean, that was a good point, but I'm going to find it. My GPS is amazing. It will find me out of traffic jams if we have too much traffic in certain areas. But again, and I think it's important to note that I believe we're setting a precedent if we do this for one and not all. And as noted, maybe for the entire building. And what if somebody else, say, wants to have the same sign? And, you know, I think we need to change our ordinance if we're going to consider any changes. But I like the sign. It's sharp looking. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is there further discussion?
May I address a comment?
Yes.
So if these signs, if you can only vote by the letter of the law, why weren't we just denied and told to go get a variance?
You were not denied. You were told that you had to come to the Marlborough City Council because of the language in the special permit, which has the city council as being the one who approves the signs for your building.
So as the council, you can't approve a special permit?
This isn't, it's just a sign permit. It's not a special permit. The whole development was done through a special permit, and the special permit included language that said the city council is the authority for the signs. So you're before us to approve a sign that meets the code for the downtown Marlborough Village District, which is...
So if you had proposed a non-illuminated sign, it would come before us to approve the sign that you're going to put on the building. However, by seeking to have us approve a sign that we cannot approve because it's in the code that way, we have provided you an extra layer of bureaucracy. You are very welcome.
Yeah,
Thanks.
so basically both signs will be denied by the board tonight, and we'll have to go.
No, I believe the other one meets the requirements, and we can quickly go through that one. I believe the blade sign, well, it's too big, yes, so it's not compliant. It's proposed to be 9.03 square feet, so if you could make it to fit the requirements, which is not to exceed 6 square feet in any area. Otherwise, yeah, so I guess we would actually have to deny both of them.
And that sign is too high on the building as well.
So you could come back for the requirement for that one. We could approve the flat wall canopy as a sign that is not internally illuminated, and you would have to then change what you would then submit to the sign department, or to the, to code enforcement, not code enforcement, sorry, to Ethan, to get the permit.
Understood.
Got it. So based on talking to the building commissioner's office, it seemed like there was a special sign permit that we would come to city council for. That's not, so we'll get approval or rejection tonight, and we have to go to the planning board to get a variance. And then we'll have to come in back in front of city council and get those approved. Like, so does the building commissioner's office have authority to approve the permit? Or no matter what, the permit is approved here for
No,
this project in particular?
You would still need to go get a sign permit from the building department. We would, once we vote to approve a flat wall sign that's not internally illuminated, you would submit your information to the building department. They could then approve that sign. If you decide you want to go internally illuminated, once we approve it, you would have to ask for a variance, and then you would be on the planning board's agenda.
Okay.
And then if that was approved, then the sign permit would be filled.
Okay.
So you're you can let us know. I mean, the other one, you're going to have to come back to us with something that fits.
Or go for the variance on that one as well.
I guess you could go for the variance on that also if we deny it. I don't even know if we need to deny it.
Madam
Or
Chair.
if you can just go. Counselor Fucillo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess, yeah, similar thought. You know, if we're being asked to do something that we don't have the authority to do as a council, which is the internally illuminated sign is what it sounds like, I'm not so sure why we would just deny, but rather file this. I mean, it's just a communication as presented to us from Code Enforcement Officer Lippett. And right, it's with the subsequent request to approve a canopy flat wall sign that they would like to be internally illuminated. So I don't know, I'm at a loss through the process here. Like, I'm not sure why we would deny something that we don't have the authority to even approve in the first place, just for them to then go to planning. Or would we not
Right,
just
we would-
file and just leave it? And
I would suggest we approve a sign that is approve this sign not internally
Internally
illuminated,
okay.
and then let them take the next step to
Sure.
get a variance to internally illuminate it. Otherwise, they have nothing. And I'm not sure that the planning board wants to take this up without
without us doing something.
something.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Counselor Doucette?
Thank you. So of the two signs, the smallest sign I think we can approve, or does everyone have any disagreements with that?
We can approve the flat wall canopy sign
Okay,
as a sign not illuminated.
right. And the blade sign, which is the bigger one,
The blade
Okay.
sign, we have to
Right.
deny.
okay. I would like to get the opinion of the solicitor before I vote on that one. So I would prefer to table that item if necessary.
And what do you need from the solicitor? That,
Whether or not, if we approve, can we approve the 57 Main Street as a internally illuminated sign based upon, they didn't know the signs would look like this 10, 15 years ago?
do you want me to read his sentence to you one more time?
No, I read it back to you too. You know, it says unforeseen circumstances.
No, it says, under the sign ordinance, 526-9L3C1, interior illuminated signs are not allowed.
The solicitor made a comment, where was that? Under 526, a variance of sign ordinance may be granted in specific cases which appear to not have been contemplated by this chapter.
A variance, we don't do the variance.
Well, that was the question then. Do we do the variance because are we supposed to be doing the approval?
No, we approve a sign without the illumination. If they want a variance to have it illuminated, the planning board, a flat wall canopy sign ordinance variance by the planning board to authorize interior illumination.
Then what was it here to begin with?
I read that to
No,
begin
no,
with.
I would rather see the view of the solicitor on this case before we vote on it. I mean, if there's another member of the committee that's willing to agree with that, then I say we just motion it to the next meeting, and we'll put it on the agenda and get the response from the
So
solicitor general.
we hold them both. We're not approving or denying anything?
No, I approve one, I completely agree with approving the smaller one.
The small one being which one?
The canopy flat wall sign.
But that's the one that has to be approved without illumination.
Then I stand corrected, then the blade sign.
That one doesn't.
The
fit
blade
code,
sign,
that
we
one
can't
obviously
approve because it's too big. It doesn't meet the measurements.
Okay.
Let me ask, Madam Chair,
Yes.
before you go, and I'm gonna ask you a question, then you can respond and add that comment. Forgetting the conversation about when we vote and how we vote, are you willing to go that route? That we approve the way in which we approve it, and then you can go for your variance to keep you moving?
That's what I was going to ask.
You guys are making great progress. I don't want to kind of hold that up. And so is that a possibility, or are you guys amenable with that?
I appreciate that, Councilor Navin. So I was thinking, is it possible to approve the sign unilluminated? And then is it possible, I don't know if you can, but can you approve the other sign contingent on it being the right square footage?
We can.
We can approve a
move to
sign.
approve a sign
Can
that
you give me the
meets
square?
requirements.
Yeah, can you give me the measurements on what that sign needs to look like to meet the square footage requirement? I'll incorporate it into a motion right now.
I would just rather have a bird in the hand than two.
Yeah, no, that's why I wanted to ask, yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know if we need them specifically, we just need to make sure that it doesn't exceed 6 square feet in area. And that it doesn't project above the roof line or 18 feet, whichever is lower, so that you're meeting the requirements.
No, there's another note in there about the
Projecting
second
sign.
floor windowsill, or 3 inches above.
Right, that's the one I just said. It's, the sign shall not project above the roof line or 18 feet. It's 3 inches above the bottom. So you need to meet that. You need to meet the square footage. Everything else, you've complied, non-compliant with it being
Not manufactured out of
fabricated
wood.
from aluminum. It's supposed to be wood or have a visual impression of being made of wood. Painted, stained, varnished, or otherwise sealed.
Can you do those?
So
And as we design the sign for this case, that's why we kind of have the individual slats on the background.
To make it look like
and
wood.
We have a dimensional letter on it, which kind of gives it that wood flair to it. We're just making it out of aluminum so we can paint it with a exterior polygrade, aluminum finish, so that it doesn't wear quite as drastically as wood signs do.
All right, Madam Chair, let's take them one at a time.
I'm sorry?
Let's take them one at a time.
Yeah.
Just to avoid confusion. Madam Chair, I move to
6.
approve order number 26-19700, the request for the approval of a canopy flat wall sign that is externally illuminated for 57 Main Street within the downtown business district.
All right, Councilor Navin has moved to approve the flat wall sign as presented but not illuminated.
Not internally
Not
illuminated.
internally illuminated, yes. Otherwise, it is compliant with everything else. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, opposed?
Understand.
All right,
Madam Chair.
so technically, nobody's opposed. All right, so we can move to the blade sign.
Madam Chair, Want to take a shot
Counselor
at this one?
Navin.
Thank you. I move to approve order number 26-100-9701 for the approval of a blade sign for 57 Main Street, provided that it complies with the regulations as set forth, that it does not exceed the maximum square footage allowed in the district, and it meets the visual aesthetics laid out for the district for materials. Set
Right.
forth other words that, yeah.
For the impression, so the code, or the regulation's written wood impression. Who makes that decision what the wood impression is? Because on the fin sign, it does look like slats. It's not the wood color. It's not like wood, because we're trying not to make it out of wood, because after a couple of years, it's gonna not look great. So who would actually make that determination, just so we can design something?
I would think that the building department would decide what would be having the visual impression of being made of wood.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be wood, because wood's going to deteriorate, but there's plenty of other polymers that look like wood or can be painted, stained, or varnished to look like wood.
I think probably another
Aren't
conversation
aluminum.
to go back.
Okay. Looks like painted wood in black right now. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the
No,
concern is where
unfortunately,
this sign will be
painted
located.
aluminum still looks like aluminum,
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
That, yeah, we'll have to drop it down.
Sorry to interrupt.
All right, so motion to approve the blade sign, make sure I'm doing the right one here, so long as it meets all of the requirements that are currently marked as being non-compliant. Does that pretty much
that's
cover
great.
it?
That's great.
Is there discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Any opposed? Okay,
Madam Chair,
Counselor Navin.
move to adjourn.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are adjourned at 9:00, I'm going to call it 9:03. And I